I give you some examples of what I'm talking about. Let me give you some headlines. Now, and this is in the context here, by the way, of many things. I could read these headlines to show you why a deranged Democrat went out and tried to assassinate a bunch of Republicans. I could easily show you these headlines, read these headlines to demonstrate the left's hatred for Donald Trump and conservatism. I could read these headlines and show you and illustrate, draw a connection between these headlines and this folly of the fact that the Russians colluded with somebody, now Donald Trump Jr., to steal the election from Hillary Clinton. It didn't happen, but you know what did? You remember when the Russians claimed to have information on a presidential candidate? Do you? You don't? You will in mere moments when I remind you, because it was just 2 years ago. It was just 2 years ago that the Russians claimed to have information on a presidential candidate. And a former presidential candidate sent a trusted member of his inner circle to the United Kingdom to personally pick up a copy of the promised dirt, the document, and bring it home to the former presidential candidate, who could then use it and disseminate it on his own as an effort to destroy Donald Trump. I'm referring to Senator John McCain and the Golden Showers dossier. The moment McCain heard about the Golden Showers dossier, Russians claimed to have information on a presidential candidate. It was the Russians claiming to have dirt on Donald Trump. And it was John McCain, a former presidential candidate, who sent somebody from his close circle over to the UK to personally retrieve a hard copy of this dossier. The Golden Showers dossier, which promised to have dirt on Donald Trump. The former candidate and current U.S. senator sent a minion clear across the Atlantic to get it because he wanted to damage the Trump campaign. He wanted to destroy the Trump campaign. Now, we can understand why McCain, in his mind, had been insulted by Trump over the comment about Trump not respecting military people that get captured. But McCain's anger at Trump went even beyond that. But here's an instance where it really happened. The Russians claimed to have information on a presidential candidate, and a former presidential candidate went out, got it, and attempted to use it on a candidate for president in his own party. We don't hear about that. We don't hear about any of the other collusion between the Russians. What was the collusion anyway? You know what we don't hear about? We do not hear about the real rigging of an election. That has been reported. It has been documented. It has not been objected to. It just remains undiscussed. And it did result, we believe, from Russian interference. The only collusion that anybody knows of, that anybody can prove, that anybody can literally reach their hand out and touch, is the compromising of the Democrat National Committee computer network and servers, in which it was discovered that the Democrat National Committee and Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, working with Hillary, rigged the primary contest against Bernie Sanders. There is a hard example of Russian collusion. Well, we don't know if it's collusion, but we know that it was Russian. We're told it was Russian hacking that got into the DNC server. But you want to talk about rigging an election? The Democrats did it, not Donald Trump, not the Russians, the Democrats. Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz had a rigged game going to guarantee Hillary would be the party's nominee in 2016, no matter what Bernie Sanders did. No matter how many delegates he was getting, Hillary was always going to trump this. And Bernie never had a chance. That's the real rigging of an election. That's the real interference in an election. And nobody talks about that, including Crazy Bernie. The only people that used to talk about it were crazed, crazy Bernie voters. But even they tired of it because their hatred for Trump somehow overpowered their disgust and anger at the disrespect their own guy had received. So, hard evidence of genuine collusion. McCain sending an emissary to pick up that Golden Showers dossier so he could use it to harm Trump. That's what I remember. People in campaigns will go anywhere to get dirt on their opponents. And if somebody calls you and claims they have dirt on your opponent, many will open the door and let them in, which is what happened to Donald Trump Jr. Dan Rather was so desperate to get this kind of help for John Kerry in 2004 that he forged documents about Bush and the National Guard to help the cause. Now, Rather ended up getting fired, but he's back with a modicum of respect within the community of certified and certifiable journalists. So we hear these never-ending allegations about collusion and rigged elections and all this, and yet it really happened on the Democrat Party side of the ledger. To this day, the Democrats will not turn over their hacked server, their hacked computers, or hacked network devices to the FBI for forensic analysis. I wonder why that is. Why don't they want anybody to see it? Now, what they want you to believe is that the Russians hacked poor old John Podesta's computer, and then all of those embarrassing emails, none of which were denied, by the way, ended up on WikiLeaks. So the Russians are working with Trump to hack Podesta, and in Podesta's emails end up on WikiLeaks, thereby destroying the Hillary campaign. Except the Russians didn't have anything to do with Podesta. Podesta fell for a phishing attack. I'm sorry, folks. You probably heard me say this a damn many times. You're getting tired of hearing it, but it's the only way I know to deal with this, because every day we are slathered with the biggest gunk of lies and distortions and half-truths that I can recall. And all the while, the American left is doing its best to bring down this country as founded.